I just wanted to say thank you guys for taking the time to sit here with us and really just kind of talk about our trip. I we've been home for a couple of weeks now,
Hmm.
and I was saying when we were muted, is that we probably just finished unpacking maybe like a couple of days ago.
Yes.
I'm a kind of person that just chip at it a little bit at a time. And then, of course, I had to compile all my video footage and things like that. So by the time I get all that, that's where this starts to come into play and people start to see it develop, on our trip and everything.
Hmm.
Um, so I've got the video there, I'm going to share with you guys in a couple of minutes the live premiere of our trailer from Texas to Tahoe. And it was a pretty amazing trip. I mean,
I know he plans it all out, right? So technically, I know what in essence we're going to do, but just to experience all the different parks, rain, smells,
yeah.
different weather.
And if you notice our shirts,
Yes. Can you
it's
tell?
Highway 50, the loneliest road in America.
Yes, Austin, Nevada.
Yeah. So that was a really long road. It was actually really nice. So you'll get to see a little bit of that, in the upcoming videos. But without further ado,
Y'all excited?
y'all guys give me a thumbs up if y'all ready to see the trailer, and we just watch it all together. And then afterwards, stick around. It's a very short trailer. It's not that long at all. But stick around afterwards, and we're gonna just do questions and answers. Just talk about our trip. I think Texas motorcycle rider said that he was gonna ask some questions like on tips and things like that. Like, just I'm gonna go ahead and say we're road proven. This is two really large trips that we've done. This one being 4,786
786.
miles. So I think we've been through a little bit. So just throw your questions on us,
Yeah.
and let's just answer them for you. And you're gonna get a perspective from the rider as well as.
That's what I was about to say. I swear, I felt it coming over. Totally felt it. So if you have your girlfriend or your wife and she's like on the fence about riding, get her to join and watch this little not little, watch our official trailer
Yeah.
of our trip and then get her to join and just, hear my perspective of being a passenger, and maybe that'll help motivate, your tail gunner to join you.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and switch over here really quick, and I'm gonna go ahead and play the trailer, and I hope y'all guys like it. All right, there it goes. Yeah, we're about to leave.
We got tea.
We got tea. I'm already there. We just heard thunder, so we're burning out because we just got finished going through rain and hail. Woo!
Are you serious?
112 degrees, man. The road's about. We'll be living on the road for 14 days. So we're out here just enjoying it. Good time. Today's not about the bike. Today's about the hike.
Oh, our spam fell out.
It's an easy ride today. Nice and cool. And we're gonna try to beat the rain. What y'all guys think?
What'd you think?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's one of those videos that I think when I first put everything together and I showed Ruthy like on Monday, I think we watched it like 6 times, like just straight.
Yes, over and over.
And yeah, just over and over. And Ruthie was like, "Man, you make me want to be there again." I make myself want to be there when I see the videos,
Yes, it's so true.
you know. And let's see,
Very true.
drone footage never disappoints. No, it sure doesn't.
Thank you, Brandy.
Yeah, and thanks, Bill, Bill Thomas, Bill, great trailer. Yeah, thank you, man. I really enjoyed making it. Aside from riding motorcycles and stuff, this is like my hobby that I like doing right now, and I really enjoy it. I kind of like bringing those memories and making them a little more dynamic in the sense of doing the video, you know. And I just hope that we inspire people, you know, encourage people to just get out there and go travel and do something. I remember reading these little comments, and it always says at least once a year, go somewhere different, you know. And even if it's not different, and then you still do it, as long as you every time you go, you just bring something back with you, you know. And that's kind of like where we're at. But hey, man, I'm glad that y'all guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, I had a lot of fun making the trailer, and aside from watching it 6 times in a row with Ruthie, of course, I probably watched it like 100 times, you know, just to kind of put little things here and there. But yeah, you know, I had a good time. How was your experience, Ruthie, during the trip?
I had an exceptional time. I'm going to say more than good. It was exceptional. Even during the different variations of the weather patterns that we rode through. The bike itself, ours anyways, obviously that's what I'm going to talk about, is super comfortable. It had all the storage I needed. That is one thing. I have learned to pack lighter and not take so much.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, just wash clothes along the way. The comms that we had on our helmet, I could always hear Paul. I could always tell him if I needed a potty break or whatever, or if I'm hungry, or whatever the case may be. So that was always convenient to have. The seat that I have is an ultimate.
Yeah.
Is an ultimate seat. So that's super comfortable for me. I know they do their part to, like, if I'm not mistaken, they make it based off my weight, or at least they have that information so that it's very comfortable for me. So as a passenger, sign me up for our next trip, because I don't know. One thing is my babies. I missed my puppies. So aside from that, everything was exceptional. Dining was great because we didn't like spare any cost on that part.
Yeah.
Paul says food is always important. So
yeah. So Bill Thomas has a question. He says, "What was the best thing you experienced on this trip?" For me, when I think about this trip, there's one thing that just comes to mind, and that was leaving Yosemite. Not necessarily Yosemite itself, But the best thing was leaving Yosemite, and I'll say this, it's kind of hard for me to put into words, but we went through a storm. If y'all guys happen to see us on Instagram, we talked a little bit about that, and we hit a really nasty storm. Just kind of leaving through there and then running through Tioga Pass. And it's one of those things that when you ride a motorcycle out on the open road like that, when everything is peaches and cream, it's great. If the weather's great, you just keep on going. You're rolling, and there's no hiccups or anything like that. But in this particular storm, experiencing the rain, the hail that came through, and I would say it's pretty big hail because it did hurt. There was times it would hit us, and it did hurt. Um, Going through Tioga Pass, leaving through there with the crosswinds and the rain, and then there was a little bit of like mudslides, rock slides that were starting because of how heavy the rain was. I would say the vulnerability of that particular moment, um, just knowing that you have to kind of push through to get through something like that. There is no, you could stop and let the rain pass and everything, but there are moments when you can't stop and you just have to keep on going. And I would say that of the trip within itself, that's probably the most memorable thing to me that I experienced. What about you, Ruthie?
Mine was hiking Angel's Landing. Getting to Utah, getting to Zion. It's our second time to be at that park in particular. But to hike it and not know exactly what I was going to end up seeing at the end. I'm that girl. He'll tell me all the information, but I don't always listen all the time. Or it's in passing or whatever the case may be. Hiking it, but I have to be honest, there was several occasions where I thought we made it. We're here because there's so many people there. And he's like, "No, we're not here yet. We're not there yet. You see that?" And he's like, points to the right. He's like, "You see that up there?" He's like, "That's where we're going."
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we have lunch and the little chipmunks are everywhere. Like legit chipmunks. That's what we're going to call them because they were so cute. We almost brought one home.
Yeah.
So we eat and we move on and we make it to, I think, another spot where there's a not as many as the first spot, but I'm like, yes, now we're here. Someone else hears me. And they're like, no, you're not there yet. But good job so far. You still got ways to go. And we make it to what is Angel's Landing. It is, and then the scenery, the painted sky, the rock formations or the mountains, whatever I'm supposed to call them, and looking down and seeing the road we took and seeing buses on that road. It's like we were just down there like 2 hours ago, and now I'm up here.
It was pretty memorable. I mean, this is the second time that we've had the opportunity to go to Zion National Park. The first time we did hike the Narrows, which if you're not familiar with Zion, of all the national parks that I've been to, this is by far the prettiest one. So we did the Narrows, and that's where you hike on the Virgin River, and you're in between, just a canyon. You're in a canyon, basically the river. We did that, and then so we were able to do Angel's Landing on this one, and yeah, I mean it was a great experience. I mean, I was early on, I did a moto vlog talking about it and all the training that I was gonna do and things like that, and if, man, y'all guys know life gets in the way. That goes to the wayside.
We did good for about a week.
But we did do some exercise, and we tried to eat healthy a little bit. So I wouldn't say we were totally unfit for it because throughout the whole hike, I felt pretty good. Yeah, I mean, yes, I got tired, but you could take breaks. This isn't a timed course or anything like that, and people aren't rushing you to get through it or anything like that. You just kind of step off to the side. Well, don't step off. just
Please don't.
just step to the side
Yes.
within the trail, and you just let people pass that are moving forward. Because, and the funny thing is, on the way up, we were kind of like with a family that they would stop, and then we would pass them, and then we'd stop, and they would pass us, and then that's just how everybody gets up to the top. Scott, the hike looked dangerous. It can be. Matter of fact, at the very bottom, and a lot of motorcycle riders are familiar with this, hitting certain roads, and it says like however many motorcyclists have passed away on this road. They have the same sign for that for that hike up to Angel's Landing. You are traversing a lot of areas that literally to the left and right of you, there's nothing. It's a straight drop off. You're just gonna fall. Even if you only fell, well, no, I don't say, but even if you fell 100 feet, you're just gonna hit rock. So do you have to be careful? I mean,
all the time.
you got to be 110%. Every step you take, you got to be sure-footed. There is an area though that once you get to when Ruthie was talking about when you got to the top, it was like where we had a lunch break and a restroom break. Right at that area, there's what they call the chain section, and that starts, so you can get to the top of Angel's Landing. You want to hold on to that chain the whole time.
Or
And
or crawl it. That was me
or
sometimes. I
yeah,
crawled it.
or crawl. So yeah, it can be dangerous, most definitely. This is not something that I would tell somebody, look, if you got really bad knees, if your health isn't all up there, you don't feel like you can take on this kind of strenuous activity, absolutely do not do this hike. Because not only are you going to put yourself at risk, I mean, literally life and limb, but if someone is trying to grab you and reach you from falling, they might go too. So you absolutely do not want to do this. Now, when we were hiking up, I was watching Ruthie the whole time, and she was behind me, and I was, we would take turns. She would be up front, I'd be up front. I'm asking her, "Are you doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
You need to take a break." Because sometimes I think Ruthie tends to just push on because I push on,
Yes.
and so I'm very aware of her, and I'm like,
That's true.
because I'll stop, if I'm tired, but she won't stop. I feel like sometimes she won't tell me, "Hey, I need to take a little break." So I was constantly ask her, "Hey, do you need to take a little break? If you do, let's just go ahead and stop for a
Mhm.
little bit." We have all day. The nice thing is our hotel was literally,
Walking distance.
within walking distance of the entrance of the park, even though you got to take a long bus ride to get to and from the trailhead to the visitor center. Um, but we're there. We don't have to drive an hour out to our hotel. So it's like, look, we got all day. The weather was great, so it's an awesome. I don't know. The experience is just out of this world, man. I
Yes.
mean, it's just it was hard to believe that you were actually up there looking at everything so beautiful.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and but yeah, that was that hike. Scott did have a question. He says, considering I'm going to Colorado with just a bit in Utah, no Death Valley on this trip, should I hurry up and get a camel pack? Yes. I Yesterday we went for a ride with Lone Star Taino Jesse to go pick up his bike, and I told Ruthie on my comms, I was like, you know what? I said, I'm riding over here and it was hot yesterday. And I said, it's funny. I said, but I'm like, I was about to reach for my camel pack straw
Hmm.
so I can get a little, slurp of water.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, I didn't have it on. I was so used to having it those 2 weeks solid every day. I had that thing on my back. And I was always able to drink water. So, I think it's a good idea. If you're traveling like that cross country, everyone has this whole stigma with, man, I'm on a Harley Davidson, I gotta look cool, whatever. Well, man, you can't look cool if you're gonna pass out and end up in a ditch, because you're
No.
dehydrated or you're having a heat stroke. So play it safe. Traveling right now in this weather can be very dangerous. So one of the things that we did to be prepared for that is on my bike, I have a cup holder. So for
Mm.
Ruthie, she had a 30-ounce Arctic that she
Hmm.
was always able to have water.
Yep.
I have my camel pack.
Yep.
Inside or on the motorcycle, I had a rack with an ice chest. We always had water in there so that if we were somewhere and we finished our water and we needed more, then we could, get by.
Hmm.
On top of that, running through the really hot days, the first day that we took out our hydration vest was in Moapa Valley, which is just outside of Las Vegas. And so in Las Vegas, it was 104 degrees, which is pretty hot. Really dry. It's a dry heat. The difference with the dry heat is that when you stop in the shade, it actually feels decent. You know, Aside from that, hot is hot. Once you're out from under the shade and you're riding, that sun is just beating you. So we put on a hydration vest. That was the first time we put it on. So I think that's important to have.
Hmm.
We had these little hydration wrist wraps, as well as these little neck things. And so that kept us cool. I would ask Ruthie, and like, how do you feel?
I felt fine, but I deal with the heat way different than Paul does. So I was more than comfortable when I put on the hydration vest and then the extra wristbands and then the necktie. Even before that, I was comfortable, but I deal with it differently. But what I was wanting to say to Scott's comment, I told Paul once we got back home that like if we do this again, I think I'm going to consider having my own camel pack. For one, it'll probably hold more, so I get to take more. So make it a twofer.
What?
Yeah, and then not that the cup wasn't good. It's just I saw the convenience of Paul just like grabbing it and drinking it and letting it go. Meanwhile, I'm on the back, two hands, got to grab my cup against the wind, bring it up to my face, try not to poke my face with my straw or my face shield. It worked. I made it work, but I saw how easy it was for Paul with his camel pack. So, Scott, I would so say yes. And then if there's a passenger watching, consider that. If you already have the cup holder, then run with it, but consider maybe a thin camel pack because that's one thing Paul did have was a very streamlined camel pack, not the one I used for actually hiking, although that's probably the one I would use
I think
because it'll hold more.
I think that camel pack held about 60 ounces of water
Mm-hmm.
because it was when you would get that one big water bottle, it would
Yeah.
fill up my whole water bottle, and then yours was a 30 ounce, or was it like a 40 ounce maybe? Well, we always had water and we always filled it up, and that's the thing is I'm gonna have a follow up video later on talking about like how to survive 5,000-mile road trip. Truth of the matter is, when you head out west, and I haven't really ridden east. Well, I've not ridden east at all, but just from what I've read, things like that, everything's a little more populated. But out west, it isn't. And so if you get stranded on the side of the road, man, you're left to the elements, to the heat. I mean, especially if you're traveling during the summer months. I mean, even down to the point that on our trip, I brought an umbrella. Now, granted, it wasn't all that good when it was real windy, but the real reason I brought the umbrella was a little something that I read um, on like riding in the heat and everything, and that's having shade. So, like I said before, when you're under the shade, even in 104-degree weather, I mean, actually, even in 108-degree weather and stovepipe wells, being in the shade, we
Huge
felt fine.
difference.
Huge
Mm-hmm.
difference. So if something happened to your bike in terms of you had to either plug a hole in your tire or you have to work on it, doing that out on the side of the road, like Interstate 20 or Interstate 70, 395 going north when we were doing that, all those different highways, there isn't really any shade. And of course, it's never going to be as convenient as you stopping in some rest area and that's when something happens. It's always going to happen in the most inopportune time and place. So even down to the point of having the umbrella, I'd be like, okay, well, I can have Ruthie hold it
Mm-hmm.
over her and myself and just cast a little bit of shadow, a shade, so that I can do whatever I need to do. Of course, having water. The other thing that I carried too is we carried a bunch of like ibuprofen, Tylenol, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because
And
if you're,
stuff to flavor our water, so it wasn't always water all the time.
yeah, it's like Gatorade packets. And the thing is that you try to be as comfortable as you can when you're riding those kind of miles and that kind of distance in those particular areas during that time of the year. Because the more focused you are, the better your odds are, right, at getting to and from wherever you need to be to. So I even carried some 5-hour energy shots, and I think I drank one or two or one maybe. I usually typically don't need them, but it just depends on where we're at. That if it puts me into a place where I'm just kind of like droning out, then I'll have to do that.
Yeah. That's where a passenger comes in and helps the actual, I want to say driver. Because with our comms, you had mentioned one point that you were feeling drowsy and you either said something to me or I started the conversation. Once you get me going, I was going. And so I woke him up. So the beauty of having a passenger and with comms, that I can help without even knowing, that he felt that way. Even if it was for a few minutes or whatever, I got him out of that and, I don't even know what we talked about.
Well, I think it was just uh, the engagement, that woke me up. Because
Mm-hmm.
of course I'm just on the bike, I'm looking at the road, got my hands on the handlebars, and I'm just trying to focus on the road, right? Make sure no jokers or old ladies come out from the side of the road into my lane. And so then talking to her, well, me and her started talking. That helped a bunch, and it does. As a matter of fact, Texas motorcycle rider, when when he and I did our iron butt, the whole way we were talking, and we were up at 3:30 in the morning. Went to bed like at 10 o'clock the night before. We should have gone to bed earlier. But having the comms allowed us to stimulate our minds more than just the road and keep on talking, and it kept us awake. And so the whole time that we were going, never, not once did we feel tired. So um, when this time came around and it was Ruthie and I, and she started talking to me, I mean, she just perked me right up. Not get always perked up with Ruthie, but she perked me right up, and I just got on like nothing. And then, of course, the one time I needed the 5 hour energy shot, that was, matter of fact, that was actually going through the loneliest road in America that I needed that 5 hour energy shot. And so that was the only time I needed it.
Was
Um,
that your favorite road to be on?
I'm actually that Scott was just asking right now. He wants to know out of all the roads during this trip, which one was your favorite and which one was Ruthie's. I'll let you go first.
Favorite road? I was gonna say $1 Million Highway.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean we got rained and hailed on that one too. Um, but I'd have to say that one. I remember seeing the waterfall. Well, we ended up eating at a spot, not knowing there was a water. Or did you know there was a waterfall?
No, no.
So that was like a pleasant surprise. So I think for what I can remember, I that's gonna be my pick.
That would be your pick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd have to say $1 Million Highway was really nice. One of my favorite things about $1 Million Highway is the little towns that you come into. One of them being Ouray and Silverton. You always rode up, and then you could see the town down in the valley.
That was neat.
And so that was really awesome to see that. I love that. That's probably one of my favorite things about riding in the mountains and riding out west is coming in and then you see into the valley. You could just see on $1 Million Highway. I mean, it's just probably a matter of like a couple of miles as the crow flies. But when you start heading more out west and you start looking, now you're probably talking about like you can see 60 or 70 miles down into the valley. When you're riding through. But $1 Million Highway was probably it was a little technical because it started raining on us. I'd have preferred it not raining,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Wow.
because there's a lot of straight drop offs. I mean, I think that was the highest that we got in Colorado. That was the highest we got. Y'all guys know about Colorado and their dispensaries, but in Colorado we got up to 11,000 feet in elevation going through $1 Million Highway. Um, but that was probably the nicest I would think. Um, I do have a second nicest though that I really enjoyed was Highway 395. That takes you from Mammoth Lakes all the way north. Actually, I take that back. 395 pretty much whatever it starts off closest to Death Valley and then all the way up north. 395 is a really nice route. A lot of small towns you go through and you run along the mountains, which right across the mountains are the National Sequoia or the Sequoia National Park, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, $1 Million Highway, I think
Yeah.
for both of us.
High five.
Um, NDND, what do you use for mapping or GPS? So I use a combination of things, but mainly I use the HD Ride Planner, but it failed me.
Aw. Well, it took us to one spot, but then it wouldn't know to take us to where we really wanted to be.
So it could be user error. Scott's a lot better at using it, Texas motorcycle rider. But what was happening is that, as an example, I would set my trip from point A to B with gas stops in the middle. And when I went to go retrieve a map and load it and follow the map, it would just take me to like the first gas stop. And so I would notice that I knew that the first day I had to do, like 200 miles or something, but then my map was only telling me to go, 90 miles, which was the first
I
fuel stop.
wish.
So I'm like, yeah, that's not right. And so it did that every day consecutively. So it wasn't my favorite. That's what I used. But then I would also pull up on my phone. I would use Google Maps. And typically, what I'll do is, depending on the area, I will. There's an option on the Google Maps application where you can download the map even when there's no internet. I mean, you download it when there's internet service, but when there's no internet service, your phone will still put you on the road. It uses the GPS of your phone, and then you can get through like that. So I'll use that. This particular route, I didn't bring any paper maps. In the past, I would usually even bring a paper
Oh,
map just in case something
uh-huh.
failed.
That's so true.
But I didn't. So that's typically what I use though, and so what I'll do is to use the HD ride planner or the GPS system on the motorcycle efficiently. I just know where I'm going next, and I will just punch in that address, and I'll just let it take me there. And then when I get there, I just punch in the next address and just go from there.
Hmm.
So that's what I was doing. Not once were we ever lost on the roads. And we mainly take interstates, so
Yeah.
it's like mainly highways. You really can't get lost until you start hitting like really small little roads. And
Hmm.
then there's some places where there's only one way in and one way out.
Oh,
So you you,
yeah. It's a
you can't get
given.
lost. Yeah, it's a given.
Hmm.
But that's what we used. So
Hmm. And comms are totally, I mean, like he said with him and Scott, Texas motorcycle rider, doing your long distance trip like that, how important it was. I thought this would be cool. I can talk to Paul and then he can talk to me. But I'm sure there was plenty of times where it was just like, he's jamming to music. That was one luxury he had going on. I didn't bother to think that far ahead of time. So I was just like in my own little helmet with the wind, eyes closed.
scheming.
And then scheming. And then he would talk, and I'm like, oh, I'm napping.
It
But I didn't tell him first.
was funny, but I knew when she was asleep because I would like sometimes I would point at things or whatever. And there's no movement, so usually I would point first, and if there's no reaction, I don't say nothing. So there was times that I just kind of like, okay, she's taking a nap on the
Mhm.
bike, yes, on a motorcycle.
I know.
Um, Scott, where did we? I mean, I couldn't tell you.
It was by a
Um,
waterfall.
it was by a waterfall. We had just passed up this
It's like an
little,
overlook.
yeah, we had just passed up this little rest area, and we were going to stop there to eat, but it was like a real light hail and a very light rain as well. And I said, well, let's just keep on going because I don't want to sit here in the wet,
Hmm.
eating. So then we just rode up the road. It probably wasn't even that much more. It was probably like an extra 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Granted, that's not very far on $1 million highway because the road is so windy and curvy. And then it's wet. You're really not moving that fast. I think my max speed was like 200, not 200, was like 25 miles per hour. I mean, because you just got to play it super easy. And so once we stopped, it was just at a very nice waterfall.
Hmm.
It wasn't even a bridge. It was just or was it a bridge? No,
Well,
I
it
don't
was a
know.
curved road, and then it had like what would be a lookout.
A lookout. Yeah,
Yeah, with benches, and then the fencing, and then it had like a curved lookout, and then it actually had like a lookout on the lookout, so you could walk out a little bit further and actually see the waterfall coming down.
yeah. So then we stopped there, and that particular day we had spam
Oh,
sandwiches.
so good.
And some people have mixed feelings about spam. I do too.
When
Lone,
you're hungry, you're hungry.
Lone Star Taino could probably divulge a little bit more on that. But it was good. I mean, it was a long hiatus. That was probably the first time I had spam from that one night, Jesse. But it was good. So we paired it with some cheese, and I didn't eat it. We didn't eat it cold. I heated it up. So if
Oh.
you happen to follow Ruthy's Instagram, or you saw some post that I made on there, we were actually cooking roadside the
Hmm.
first 3 days. We'd stop for lunch, and the first 2 days we made hamburger sliders, and then the third day was the spam.
Yep.
So story time, Jesse. Yeah.
No.
So then, that was really nice eating roadside because we weren't um, we weren't stuck like having to go to a restaurant or find a restaurant. We would just stop and we
Hmm.
just would eat. And the cool thing is, man, we just ate at some of the coolest places. I mean, well, day one was just a regular, a
Rest
rest
area.
area, but just eating out in the open, picnicking like that was pretty cool.
I
Day
like that.
two, we ended up at like this abandoned casino, and they had these concrete
Oh,
teepees.
uh-huh, yeah, yeah.
Um, right before we got into Colorado. So we ate there.
Mm-hmm.
That was convenient. There was a gas station right across the street. And then, of course, day three, well, we were in Colorado. I mean, maybe I should have saved the hamburgers for Colorado. That would have been nice. But we were on $1 Million Highway eating on $1 Million Highway.
Mm-hmm.
How many people get to do that?
Yeah, and people would walk by and be like, y'all like thought this out. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. So I think this one of those things that I like to ride the motorcycle and but when I'm on a trip like this, it's not about the bike. It by no means. It has nothing to do with riding a motorcycle. I love to experience it and enjoy these type of road trips on a motorcycle. But if I had to put an importance on this trip, the bike would be the last thing. Bike, if I had like a 1 to 100 of all the different things, the bike would be number 100, as everything else takes precedence to that. That's just to me, it allows you to experience and get those senses of everything like that. Um, but again, to me, it's just a tool. It helps me to accomplish that. Um,
Getting deep here.
I mean, hey man, I spend a lot of time on a bike, but I'm just saying, I like to point it out. People tend to, like I said, I don't get attached to my motorcycles, and
Nope.
and Ruthy probably hates that I don't get
or
attached
the
to them.
four-wheeler can either.
Yeah, or the four-wheeler kind. But to me, they're tools, and they're tools to help me get the job done right. And in this particular case, to experience those things, to be out on the road. I mean, I've told many people, and I've probably told a bunch of y'all guys that are on here now, feeling those subtle nuances of the temperature change.
Mm.
You don't get that in a car.
Mm-mm.
I mean, unless you change the temperature on the dash, it's not the same. You know, when you feel the humidity, you feel the dryness, you feel the heat. Um, it's just like even last night. I told Ruthie when we were coming back from Houston. I don't know, Jesse, if you felt it, but going on I-10, coming back home to Katy, the sun was already going down. The sun had set.
Mm-hmm.
It was obviously a lot cooler, and I say cooler, but it was obviously not 90 plus. But when you went underneath the bridges, they were warmer. They were like a couple of degrees warmer, a few degrees warmer, and you felt that. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh man, that's kind of crazy. It's those little things like that, that's on the road. But aside from that, obviously having that motorcycle, it's pretty cool because they see you on the bike and they're just kind of like, oh, cool, man, where are you from? And we're like,
yeah.
We're from Texas.
Yeah, and they'd be so surprised, especially when we got closer to, in Utah, and then once we hit like Tahoe, I ran into a couple there, and they were taking a photo of themselves, and I was like, hey, I'll do it for you. Oh, okay, right. And then so where are you from kind of conversation. When I said I was from Texas, it was just like jaw dropping to them. So that was always kind of like the cool feeling to be like, yeah, that's me. I'm not riding, I'm the passenger, but yeah, that's me. I'll take credit. I'll just take a little bit. So that was nice. And then being at Lake Tahoe, that's definitely a place to have to go back to and actually get into the water, past my ankles. Right? Would you say so?
I would. I mean, so I took my shoes and socks off and stepped in the water. And right when I first got in, it was cool, but because it was pretty warm that day, it felt really nice. And in no time, it wasn't that cold. And I'm sure it was probably a lot warmer around that time of the year, anyways. But Lake Tahoe was real pretty. I mean, the road just around, and we only probably went a third of the road. We didn't even go all the way around like most people do. Mm-hmm. But the little that we experienced and got to see, I mean, it's just really pretty. The water is just amazing. And I read this article a few days ago on how the water there has the water's different temperatures and different levels. And for any of y'all guys that are familiar with Lake Tahoe, but there's parts of the water that will actually have more nutrients, and then during different times of the year, that water will sink down, and then it'll feed like all the trout and different little microorganisms and stuff, and then it'll come back up. And so that's why there's areas in there when people were saying that they could actually get water literally just out in a jug and just drink it because it's so pure. It's because of the different temperatures of the water that they don't mix. So remember how you saw some colors that were darker,
yes,
and then some that were lighter. That water is two different temperatures with different minerals in them. and they won't mix. They'll just stop like this, and they'll just stay there, and they just kind of change. So it's like one of those things. I was like, that's pretty amazing, you know. Well,
You got all sciencey on us.
well, I thought it was pretty interesting. Yeah, I thought it was, but I'm into that kind of stuff.
Is that how I get you to take me to a beach?
Not sure, I guess. um, how about that progressive suspension, Ruthie? How about that?
Yes, thank you, Progressive Suspension, for sending that on its merry way to us and Paul having the time to install it because we weren't even, I don't even think we were on I-10. And from our house to I-10 is about 2 miles at most. I felt the difference that quick. I would say I'm, what do you say?
Sam, kind of thought our group. He's at science class with Paul.
Hey, Sam, thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining, man.
I felt it quickly. And again, we have that ultimate seat, so that's really comfortable for me. But that seat prior to having the progressive suspension, anytime we hit a bump, a pothole, or whatever it could be that was in the road, I would pop out of my seat, grab onto Paul, yelp or eek, and then just, make myself comfortable again. And with that suspension that he, thank goodness got on time, so thank you again, and installed it, we weren't even in Brookshire, and Brookshire is 7 miles away from the house. So even within 2 miles or 7 miles of the house, I felt the difference. It was smoother. It wasn't so bumpy. And then when we did hit a bump, I didn't pop out of my seat.
Yeah. And that was going to be really important to have some type of suspension because when you change the weight on the motorcycle, it changes how it handles as well as how it performs, so handling and performance are two different things for those guys that are just kind of don't know about motorcycle suspension. The way it handles has to do with you braking, things like that, how it's going to hold up the weight that you're adding to it. So 2 full saddlebags, tour packs full of gear, a bag that goes on top, and I'll show you the bag in just a second.
Me.
And Ruthie.
My weight.
And then on the back of my bike on this particular trip, if y'all happen to see pictures on my Instagram, I had a little rack that I built that was holding an ice chest. So, I probably added, gosh, I'm used to riding by myself. So with Ruthie and all the gear, I probably added close to an extra 200 pounds to the back of that bike. Okay. And that's with all the gear put together, plus or minus. So Progressive sent me this suspension that I installed in the front that helps with handling as well as performance for cornering, braking, things like that. And then the rear suspension also is Progressive. Gave me a little bit more travel. So it allowed us to, if all that weight, if we were to hit a pothole, and we did, it reacted a lot better. The rebound was better. It was softer. We weren't bottoming out, you know. So it was very important that I was going to have some type of suspension on that bike prior to leaving the road, just because you're going to put that many miles, you need it to perform as best as possible, especially when you're loading the bike. It changes how it handles, so you have to compensate for that.
Yeah, I kind of felt like on our first turn, like, I don't know. I want to say the word squirrely, but that's probably too much. I kind of felt like we were heavy. That's better because we were a lot heavier. and then you got used to it.
Yeah, so it doesn't go without saying if for you guys that haven't hit the road yet and have loaded up your bikes and have really loaded your bike. And I'm not talking about a passenger because most people can kind of handle that. They get used to that really quick. But when you load it with a passenger and you load it with gear, everything changes. If you're familiar with towing a vehicle or a car with towing a trailer or something, you know that you need more space to brake. You need to compensate for that for any emergencies. So don't get behind cars too much because your front tire will break loose from the ground. People have trouble understanding that when you load the back, your front gets lighter. You start to make it like a seesaw. So the more weight you put back here, the front starts to come up. So when you hit the brakes on the front, you could lock the front tire a lot easier. right? So your pivot point, your rear tire. But even though you have a bunch of weight on the rear, you're still putting more weight here, so it pivots. So then that's where the suspension comes into play, where you adjust the preload, make it a little bit tighter to push it back forward. Same thing when we're towing the trailer. I have airbags in the back of the truck. I bring them up to bring pressure back up to the front.
I did not know that's how that worked.
Yeah. So with that said, though, even though you do that, it still makes the front end feel different. So you have to learn right away. You have to baby it. You need to respect the bike and how it's handling at the beginning until you get used to it and you get familiar with how it turns, how you can lean, things like that. Towards about like the middle of the trip, well, a little bit sooner than that, but maybe like a few days in, once I had enough time to kind of get going, I felt a lot more confident. It's still a super heavy bike. I'm not a really big guy, so I have to be very careful where I'm stopping. Where I'll park the bike, turning, parking lot maneuvers, things like that. It's a lot more mental than physical, in terms of handling the bike when you're riding it. So the suspension, though, it was hands down in terms of something that I put on the bike itself was the best thing to have on the bike. Second to that, obviously, is the lighting that we have on there. I have all custom dynamics lights on the bike. It's 100% custom dynamics, which if you aren't familiar with those, it's all LED lighting. You know, the more lights you can have on your bike, the more people are going to see you,
Right.
So that's super important. That's probably the second. I mean, I would put it up there just as high as the suspension, but you could get by with the stock suspension and you can get by with the stock lights, but anything that you do to just help a little bit better to make yourself be seen
More
and
visible.
then to ride uh,
More
longer,
comfortably.
more
Yeah.
comfortably, it's going to help. I mean, it makes a big difference.
Totally.
Um, Sam says that Ruthy don't count. She's like 75 pounds.
Thanks.
And hey, Texas motorcycle rider. That's a good thing, man. Angela likes that. I mean, it does. I think for Ruthy, it made the ride that much more pleasant.
Absolutely. I'd have to 100%. I agree.
Yeah.
And the mere fact that I noticed it so quickly, because there's a lot of things that he'll do to that bike and I don't even know any different, but that one I noticed quickly.
A lot of times, and I'm gonna have a follow up video, or I'm gonna have an install video of the progressive suspension along with basically a 5,000-mile follow up because I put it on literally the week before I left on this trip. So outside of just 50 miles that I put on that I rode to and from one day to the office, all of those miles are basically like 99% on that road trip. So we put them to the test. I mean, rode them through all of Texas. We rode through parts of New Mexico, Colorado, a little bit of Arizona, Nevada, a lot of Nevada, a lot of Utah, California, and then we rode back home, and we got back home in 3 days. Okay, so we're about to get to that part though really quick. Jesse, will I be upgrading the brakes? I think I am. I'm kind of exploring some options and just seeing what's out there. When you got more weight, that's I think when it becomes a lot more useful. For the most part, these Harley Davidsons, they come with Brembo calipers, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and then whatever brake pads you put in it. But there are some upgrades where you can get a bigger rotor. I think one of Scott's buddies, Jerome, went and upgraded his, and he says you can feel it. I don't know what exact percentage is, but it is something that I'll probably be looking at. Get in touch with maybe a couple of companies out there and see what we can figure out. Um, gonna make me spend money on brakes.
That's a given.
You know what though? Sure, spend money on brakes, but spend it right. Hey guys, my battery is flashing.
Oh no.
So if y'all will hang on for a quick second, I'm gonna swap out my battery.
Okay.
I'm not gonna cut this off yet, but just give me about.
Oh. Uh-oh. Do you know where you're going?
Yep. So hold on, guys.
You're like this.
We're still there.
Oh, they can still hear us?
They can still hear us.
Oh, we are still here. He's getting the battery.
Getting the battery.
I can see how you froze. That's hysterical. We're coming. He's coming. Are we there? We might be there. Let's see. 5, 4, 3, 2. And wide. We're back.
Are we back? Let's see.
Yeah.
Y'all let me know if we're back. Give me a thumbs up or something like that. Okay. Yeah, I see us. Okay. All right. Nice pause.
Bathroom break.
Sing for us, Ruthy, is what Scott was saying. Okay.
I'm Jesse.
Yeah, all right, it's coming through. So, yeah, making you spend money. But hey, look, what I try to do on my YouTube channel is review products as in depth as possible. And I'm not just going to review a product and then run it down the road, to the local bar. I'm going to put it to the use. Basically, like this suspension, I can tell you I got 5,000 miles right off the bat on how the suspension feels. So, of course, if you have any questions, um, just hit me up. Find me on YouTube and send me a little message, or you can get on Instagram, which is Paul on the Run _81, and then on Facebook, I'm also just Paul on the Run. And just ask me. Feel free to shoot any questions my way. Because, like I said, I have more than just install experience. And I've told Ruthie this multiple times. It's like the rider will always say, "Oh yeah, I feel the difference." Blah 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 blah. But I'm going to actually, my follow up video is going to include Matami Beautiful again. And she's going to give some real world experience on that suspension. We're going to talk more into depth about it. We're going to talk about the different places we were at and things like that. Of course, you've heard a bunch of it here. But I know there's a lot of riders out there that you have your better halves that go with you. And of course, if they're not comfortable, they're not going to want to ride with you.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple. I mean, it's just like that. So whatever you can do to make them more comfortable, you're gonna have a riding partner with you. You want to go out somewhere, you're gonna have someone to hop on there with you and go and say, "Yeah, man, I'll go." You got a comfortable seat,
Yep.
got comfortable suspension,
Yep. Backrest, cup
backrest.
helmet, all the things.
If she don't like being in the sun, then you make sure that you get her all kinds of sun protection. If she wants to, chit chat you away on your helmets, then you get her a comm system.
Mute her when she doesn't know.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about you, Jesse. Don't start that, with Crystal. He just bought a 2021 Road Glide, and of course it's a stock seat. And you're excited, man. You want to go for a ride, and for the most part, the riders can usually handle that seat. But any passenger,
no.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm so grateful that I am not a passenger.
When you have to ride a stock seat, no, thank you.
So, well, at least not that stock seat, because that's a Road Glide. It's a FLTRX, so it has the more chopped little seat. If he had gotten like a limited or an ultra, that changes everything because that's a real fat seat. But he's since fixed that yesterday,
yes.
And I'm sure he'll talk about that later. But yeah, so it's just that if it's comfortable, you're gonna want to be on it longer. You're gonna want to ride, things like that. Let's see who's saying here. I can't hear you kidding.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right. These trail braking helps get the weight to the front in the curves. Yes, man, I did learn a little bit about trail braking. I still got to learn a little bit more because the thing is, I don't usually ride loaded like that all the time. So it's like something that you have to learn while you're on the road, right? While you're road tripping.
Okay.
But I have read a lot. Actually, I talked to a guy at our local motorcycle place. He was talking about like track days and how they teach them how to do that. So definitely something I wouldn't mind learning. I'm always up, for learning a little bit more. But let's talk about coming back home. So of course, the whole reason this trip kind of originated is that I own a road glide and I'm a member on roadglide.org, and every year they host a rally of road glide owners. And every year it's somewhere different. This one happens to be in Minden, Nevada. Next year, I believe it's in Wisconsin. And then the year after that, they're already kind of voting 2 years in advance to give people enough time. So Wisconsin was decided on last year, and then so that'll be the following or the next road glide, number 12, 13. Whoever's on there, Bill, if you're on there, man, tell me what number we're
What
at.
number are we at? This was
This
11.
is 11, so 12.
Okay.
And then so 13 is going to be in, what was that?
I thought Wisconsin.
No, Wisconsin is
When?
next year, 2022. And then 2023 is the other place. Anyways,
Okay.
I can't remember. But so every year they go to a different place. We've been to three. Minden. We've been to the one that was in Deadwood, South Dakota, and then the one that was in St. George, Utah. Um, so that's kind of what started, at least, to have somewhere to go to. Of course, don't get me wrong. I don't ever need anywhere to go to other than just going. But it is nice because I have met some people that I've made friends with, and so just kind of seeing them and just kind of seeing all the people gather, in one place. Um, from so many different locations, and just riding and being like, dude, we all made it right here to this particular place to meet up for, what is essentially a 3 or 4 day rally.
Yeah.
But most people have been gone for 10 days,
Yeah, that was
15
cool.
days, 20 days.
Yeah, because he would say, oh, so and so, and I don't know everybody's name, was like, we were leaving in a week's time, but these people were already on their way because it's not just to get there and leave. It's to make that adventure, make that journey on your way there, right? People
Yeah.
coming from Florida, you imagine all the way to Nevada. That's an adventure. That has its own experience. So people indulge themselves, because that's how I'm seeing this,
Yeah.
making their way there and then, booking it back like we did in 3 days, or on a glacial pace, making it on their way back home too.
I think there's actually one more guy that's out there.
No.
Yeah, there's one more guy. Raymond Garvin Raymond or something like that. I can't remember. It's Garvin Raymond.
Okay.
He had said that if there was one more guy that was on their way, that's the last guy.
Wow.
And basically, they say that Shark Week doesn't end until the last guy makes it home. So Shark Week is actually still on. So Scott, how was the Shark meetup? It not was is still happening because that guy's on his way. But it was really fun. So the way they host these events is that they do have a lot of sponsors that donate a lot of stuff, and I'm talking like
just 200 items or something. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
What did Ron Cushing said that just with the raffle alone, I think they made in selling raffle tickets.
Oh.
It was like somewhere like $11,000 or $13,000, somewhere in between there, of people buying raffle tickets. So that just goes to show you how much stuff is donated.
Yeah, and the quality behind that donation.
Yeah, there was, to give you an idea, 2 sets of Olin shocks, a bunch of factory fairing donated. Like it was like a free fairing.
Yeah,
that's like the value of like $1,000. All kinds of stuff, all the way down from like, little signs to custom made signs.
To clothes. I want that one.
Clothes, motorcycle parts, air cleaners, all kinds, audio. I mean, it's just all kinds of stuff. And so all that money that or the companies donate, all that money goes back into the Shark Week, and it is called the National Road Glide Rally, and they are sanctioned as a nonprofit organization. So they actually have their designation. So they donate some money every year to a local cause.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
And so again, we buy like so they have that, that's the raffle day, and they host like a tent with free beer, that's included. And I mean, I say included, but all that raffle money and other miscellaneous sales goes into funding the previous or the next year and the next year. So there's always money to carry over to help buy shirts, make pins, patches, whatever, and then people paid, fee for them, things like that. But it really was a great event. It just happened this year happened to be at what I did was at a casino too, but it was at a casino here. So what makes it convenient is if you want to gamble, then there's that. But there's restaurants on site on the hotel. There's actually the hotel and to park. This particular one had an RV park also, as well as a separate hotel, but it was all within the same grounds, and they had their own gas station.
Mm-hmm.
But it was in a little town, so it was super convenient, real easy, as far as getting your dinner, things like that. So it was really a great event that we had, and we spent, let's see, we got there Monday night. or Tuesday night.
We got to
Minden Tuesday.
no Tuesday was Tahoe Day. We got. Remember, I kept telling everybody when they were
Oh yeah,
asking.
yeah.
I was like, we
Monday.
don't get there till Tuesday.
Yeah.
So Monday was Minden.
Monday we showed up to Minden. Then we were there Tuesday. We went to no Tuesday. Well, one of those days we ended up in Virginia City, which is just 30 minutes from Minden. So we were out there, we hung out and visited a little area. So that was really cool. So then we wake up Friday morning, and we got to we packed Thursday night. We had the banquet that day. They have like a really good dinner.
Oh my God, that was spot on dinner.
Yeah, it was really good. So they did a good job. Um, so before I move on to how many days, Scott was asking how did the bike run at the higher elevations. I couldn't try to notice any difference. The bike performed flawlessly. It didn't skip a beat. I didn't even accidentally cut it off. it did everything I wanted it to. The only thing that made me uncomfortable was the weight of the bike. It's just more weight than I normally used to ride in. Like I said, I'm not a big dude, so I really can't manhandle the bike left and right. So I really have to rely on my balancing act,
Yeah.
if you will. Um, so we wake up at about 4 a.m. in the morning, and then we got to ride back 3 days. So we're really putting our bodies to the test now because before we had just been averaging 250, 300-mile days, something like that. One day I think we did like 400, but I think that was when we were trying to get to Colorado from Roswell, if I'm not mistaken. But outside of that, though, so day one we did 776 miles the first day from Minden, which is just outside of Carson Valley. Got on the loneliest road in America and rode
That was
all
actually
the way.
so nice too. That road.
Yeah, it was. It was really nice, and rode all the way to Grand Junction. So yeah, kind of touching on the loneliest road. A few towns that we stopped in to fuel up, but I think it was close to about 500 miles worth of that road, and there was a really big section that was just absolutely. I mean, all of it. There's no homes.
Mm-mm.
There's no businesses.
There's
just
not even abandoned homes.
yeah. When you get to the small town, that's it. Yeah, not even abandoned homes. Yeah, that's which is what you kind of normally see out going west and stuff like that. But that was day one to Grand Junction, and then we had a little bit of concern because coming into Grand Junction, I started seeing signs that Highway 50, so it turned back into Highway 50, going through the Gunnison. There was some road closures because they were blasting out roads and repaving them and things like that. So I'm like, oh man, I said, if we're going to have to go around, it's going to take forever. It's going to add at least another 150 miles to an already 600 plus mile day. So it would end up being another 700 and something mile day. And it takes even longer because now I'm going through Colorado, which is all mountain pass, and trying to get to the interstates, the main interstates. So it was super slow. So I started doing a little bit of homework. It turns out that it was not going to be closed because it was the 4th of July weekend and because it's the weekend.
So that was in our favor.
Yes. So we got through it and we got to Amarillo.
Mm-hmm. Hello, humidity.
Yeah. Hi, Texas.
Welcome
and
home.
Yeah, we got to Amarillo, had dinner, woke up the next morning because we needed to get home. Well, I say needed. I wanted to get home because I was ready to see my dogs already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once you're on your way home, it's kind of like the fun is there, but just not as so high anymore.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of footage on the last day. I think I got a decent amount, for day two and day three of returning home. I mean, day one and day two of returning home, but day three I don't have a lot of footage because basically I'm from Amarillo, coming to Katy, Texas. It's just I'm just trying to get home. And then of course we hit rain. We left the house. When we left home, we hit rain.
Yep.
And coming home, we hit rain.
Mm-hmm.
It just,
But it's okay. So don't, again, as a passenger speaking, do not let that deter you. Just, I've learned to embrace it. I've learned to take off my boots, turn them upside down, let the water run out, and it's okay. Or you can use it as an excuse to get yourself new boots, however you want to look at it. I have found it's funny, it's comical, it's fun. It is what it is. You endure it, and then you know that you're gonna get to a place, hopefully that evening, for dinner, for relaxation, for a nice cocktail, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or in our instance, well, getting home just to see our puppies, to see, go check out your mom and everything, how she's doing, and then getting our dogs home. So don't let that deter you, because I know as a writer, if you're in the rain, you're booking it. You're getting where you need to get to. But as a passenger, this is all you got to do. You got to tuck in closely behind him, and you don't get that wet. Unless it's like, torrential downpour, then that, you don't go faster.
Yeah, really. Yeah. ND, yeah, the panhandle is nothing but a nosebleed. Yeah, it is. But kind of touching on that, I don't like, no, I don't think any rider really likes, hitting the rain. I definitely am not a big fan of hitting the rain when I'm riding to and from work, or if I'm just on a decent little weekend. But it really doesn't stop me. When I'm on a road trip, there's nothing there that stops me at all, by no means, you know. And but it was a really good trip. It was a great trip. I mean, we had a good time. Like I said, I'm gonna have some follow up videos on things talking about being road ready. I find myself amongst a lot of admirable and very experienced riders, even to the point that I have certain people that I can call on when something happens, particularly when I had some issues with my bike. There was a couple of people out there. One of them, some of you guys might know, Troy Belliston. He was very helpful in answering me when I needed help on some questions with my suspension and if I can keep on going or not. And so that helped me a lot. It actually pretty much saved a good chunk of my experience, my riding.
Yes.
I probably would have.
And wallet.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have not been able to do Million Dollar Highway because of it, and I would have spent another $300 or $400 that I didn't need to. Because when I got home, I fixed it, and it cost me $70 because I bought a tool and I bought a kit that I needed for the repair. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm gonna have another video that comes up that I think me and Ruthy said we're gonna call it "What Failed and What Prevailed." So stay tuned on that. Because there is you go through a lot of stuff on a road trip. More than we can say here within this time frame. But let's see, extra rainproof everything for the trip. Oh man, let me tell you what.
Grocery bags were my friends.
We took a road trip to Arkansas a few years back, and I had a luggage bag on top. It was a tea bag, and it came with a rain cover. I don't know what that material was, but it was definitely not any kind of rain cover. I think it was like a dust cover, if anything. All our stuff got so wet that when we got to the hotel, it looked like someone literally put like a cherry bomb in our bag and let it go off. And there was clothes everywhere. It was hanging on everything.
Yeah, on the lampshade.
I mean, anywhere we could put
hang,
stuff. Yeah, everything was wet in our bag. So then I needed to get another bag. So I ended up getting this honking bad boy right here,
which I learned how to strap on.
Yeah, and I'll have a video on that coming up. It's the Nelson Rig Traveler trunk bag. But what I'm getting at is that the rain cover that it comes with, that thing through the rainstorms that we went through,
yes.
It's 100% waterproof.
Yes. Nothing got wet. Not even in that one too, because that one came with its own rain cover. Their smaller one.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap this up. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with us and, just kind of doing this Q&A. And, of course, if you're not subscribed and this is the first time that you're watching us, please subscribe to my channel. It does help me to bring more content. And if you hit the like button, that also lets YouTube know what you like. And it helps to kind of put my videos out there a little bit more. And of course, I'm gonna bring you some pretty cool stuff. I mean, this little trailer that y'all guys saw, it's just a small taste. And we're gonna let you guys go, but I'm gonna play the trailer one more time. But until next time, deuces. Mwah. So just give me a second, guys, and I'm gonna play it for you one more time. All right? But we'll see y'all later.
Yeah, we're about to leave.
We got tea.
We got tea.
I'm already there.
We just heard thunder, so we're burning out. Because we just got finished going through rain and hail.
Woo!
Are you serious?
112 degrees, man. The road's about. We'll be living on the road for 14 days. So we're out here just enjoying it. Good time. Today's not about the bike. Today's about the hike.
Oh, our spam fell out.
It's an easy ride today. So nice and cool. And we're gonna try to beat the rain.